An adaptation is a favorable trait that allows an organism to better survive. There are two types of adaptations. The first is mimicry, and this is an organism's ability to appear similar to another organism. Most of the time, this will occur for an organism that is not poisonous or toxic. They will actually mimic an organism that is poisonous or toxic. And the second type of adaptation is a camouflage, and this is when an organism can blend in with its environment. When we talk about evolution, there are two types or two rates of evolution, or how fast evolution can occur. And that's going to be gradualism and punctuated equilibrium. Gradualism is when you have slow changes over a long period of time. This is the most common form of evolution. Most organisms are going to change slowly over time. This differs from punctuated equilibrium because this is when you have long periods of no change, and then all of a sudden you have a drastic change in the types of organisms present or any new traits that appear, followed by more long periods of no change. An example of an organism or species that has undergone punctuated equilibrium would be dinosaurs. They were present for a long period of time, and then they suddenly went extinct, with new modern organisms becoming prevalent. That would be an example of punctuated equilibrium. There are two patterns of evolution as well. The first is divergent evolution, and this is also known as adaptive radiation. So an ancestor species will evolve into many, and Darwin's finches are an example of that. One ancestral finch gave rise to many different finches with different beak types. The second type is convergent evolution, and this is when distantly related species evolve similar traits due to similar environments. And an example would be fins. If you take the fin of a shark compared to the fin of a fish, they are different species, but they have evolved from the same environment. Also, the fin of a shark compared to the fin of a dolphin. A shark is a cartilaginous fish, and a dolphin is a mammal. They both have fins that do the same thing. And last are the four factors that affect the gene pool. And remember, a gene pool is the total number of genes in a given population. So the first factor that can affect the gene pool is natural selection. And remember, that's when some traits are favorable and others aren't. The second is mutations, which are random changes in DNA, and some of those are good and some are bad. If they're good, they'll be passed on to future offspring. The third is migration, and that's the movement of organisms into or out of a population. So immigration is moving into a population. Emigration, with an E, is exiting or moving out of a population. And the fourth factor is isolation, and there are three types: geographic, behavioral, and temporal. Geographic is when there's a physical barrier separating two species from breeding. Behavioral, it might be a difference in mating behaviors that prevent two species from interbreeding. And temporal is time separating two species from interbreeding. For example, some fish species only mate at night, while others only mate during the day. That would be an example of temporal isolation.